Although today was supposed to be the day focused on mourning the victims of the Bondi massacre, and I mean no disrespect for the dead whom we grieve tonight, but sadly, politics has intruded on this day of mourning, given the monumental political ineptitude of the federal opposition. As I explained last night, the Liberals here are in the wrong. The Nationals, well, they are on the right side of the rules and well-established precedent, and it's exposed yet another case of poor judgement by Liberal Leader Sussan Ley. So much so that the coalition has again ruptured on her watch, making both parties unelectable as long as they remain separate and making her leadership, as I said, all but terminal. Here was the National Party leader, David Littleproud, this morning.
I think Peta Credlin articulated very clearly last night that there is a far more nuanced response than what John Howard has there. But the reality is this: if we'd been able to have another joint party room and even a shadow cabinet to debate these and ruminate these out and to scrutinise them, I believe in a coalition, but not at any cost, not without respect, not without understanding. Not being forced to vote away without with having consequences hung over you. That's not how you operate. That's not the coalition that I've been part of for 9 years. So I think it's probably a healthy thing.
It gives me no pleasure to say that last night and again tonight to call out the Liberals, but I am just staggered that they've so mismanaged this. Not only have they done themselves enormous damage, but they've let a weak and hyper-political Prime Minister off the hook when he should rightly have been held accountable for his role in the circumstances that led to Bondi, for allowing Jew hatred to fester and metastasise into actual murder on the streets of Sydney. What are we then left with? Nothing less than a deeply inadequate government facing an incompetent and now warring opposition. Not only are the Liberals and Nationals unable to form government if they remain two separate parties, but they also face pressure from a renewed One Nation that's peeling votes off them week by week in the published polls. As I said last night, as the former Shadow Cabinet Secretary to 3 opposition leaders, here the Liberals are at fault. Not only did they not follow proper procedure on dealing with Labor's hate speech laws, and they're now trying to muddy the waters with character assassinations against the Nats, delivered anonymously, of course, on background journalists. So much of the problem goes to the fact that they never had a joint party room meeting to lock in the decision of Shadow Cabinet. Now, let me restate again how this should have been handled. In opposition, legislation gets proposed by the government, of course, in this case, the government's Labor. It first goes to Shadow Cabinet. They take a position on the legislation. But that's not a final position until it is endorsed by the Joint Party Room. It goes from Shadow Cabinet to the Joint Party Room as a recommendation. And it only becomes the formal party position when the Joint Party Room ratifies it. And the Joint Party Room meets usually after the Liberal Party Room and the National Party Room have met separately. Now, if it's agreed, that's it. That's the decision of the Joint Party Room, and that's where you can hold shadow ministers, their feet to the fire, under Cabinet solidarity, to that decision. But if it's not agreed, or in this case, a meeting's not even held, you can't force anyone to a shadow cabinet decision because the party room is sovereign. In this case, the party room of the National Party was in conflict with shadow cabinet. And any party leader who tries to force MPs to vote against their party room position, in this case again, a National Party decision, ends up facing a leadership spill. Now, unfortunately, given all the negotiations and discussions that took place in these rushed legislation debates, because the Albanese government, of course, needed a political response to Bondi, all the usual orderly processes did not take place. Shadow Cabinet made a decision to support this flawed legislation which the National Party had decided to oppose. And the National Party did this, they took their decision to oppose it after many, many meetings where they tried to work through the bills.
We didn't have a further shadow cabinet on which to consider the final position of the coalition. We did not have a joint party room on which to actually consider that and hear not just from National Party MPs and senators who had 10 party room meetings to discuss this over the last week.
You heard that there, 10 party room meetings of the National Party. It wasn't 10 of the Liberals, and there wasn't at all the joint party room meeting as is normally the process. Again, I'm staggered that Sussan Ley did not have that joint party room meeting after the shadow cabinet decision to change tack and back in Labor's legislation. Even though there was a split in the position between the Liberals and the Nats, she pushed on anyway. Now, I am told MPs were waiting around in their offices for a joint party room meeting to be called, but she never called it. And so when National Party senators voted in line with their own party's position, they did so in accordance with established convention. The Sussan leader then effectively sacked them for loyalty to their own party. That's not just against every precedent there is, but it's a massive own goal and it's a win for Labor. At one level, yes, there's been a failure of process, but at a deeper level, there's been a failure of leadership. National Party Senate frontbenchers should not have to choose between supporting their party and supporting their shadow cabinet. And once they've decided to support their party and oppose a bill, their resignations should never have been accepted, given the invidious position they were put in. And how could she not have known that forcing out some National Party frontbenchers for following their party line risked a walkout from all the others? After all, David Littleproud says he made that very point to her crystal clear.
Where 3 of our senators who are in shadow cabinet spots are being asked to resign on Wednesday morning, I sent those 3 letters that our senators prepared, along with a 4th letter on Wednesday morning to Sussan Ley. And those 3 letters were from those senators to resign their tenure, but I sent a letter advising Sussan Ley that if she accepted those resignations, because it would not be appropriate to, considering the circumstances we had, then our entire ministry will resign.
You heard David Littleproud there. It was in writing to Sussan Ley. But despite that warning, she still accepted their resignations. The resignations of the 3 frontbenchers, Bridget McKenzie, Susan McDonald and Ross Cadell. Now, bizarrely tonight, she's refusing to accept the resignations of all the other Liberals, all 8 of them, including David Littleproud, who resigned last night after their party room met to consider this issue. She says she won't accept these extra 8 resignations because she says she needs to preserve the coalition. Honestly, what a mess. In the short term, the undeserving winner out of all of this, as I've said, is the Albanese government because the opposition has yet again made itself the issue. In the longer term, the likely winner here is One Nation because neither the Libs nor the Nats can ever win government without being in a coalition. And tonight, that coalition relationship is dead.
We're gone. Let me remove the ambiguity. We've gone. It was untenable. Our whole shadow ministry tendered their resignations in light of the leader of the Liberal Party accepting our offer to resign as 3 shadow cabinet ministers. She was aware of the consequences of her decision when she accepted our offers to resign.
Now, for her part, Sussan Ley has today ruled out speaking to the media because she says the day of mourning can't be contaminated by politics, even though she's got 3 sacked National Party frontbenchers and 8 more, as I said, including the leader, refusing to serve. Now, this is not where the Liberal and National Party should be tonight, because it's only with a strong coalition that the centre-right side of politics has any chance of beating this shocking Labor government. And as was shown in 2008 under Brendan Nelson, it is possible to allow National Party frontbenchers to take a different position to the Liberal Party colleagues without breaking the coalition and without destroying internal discipline. Now, why that example was not used to manage this current difference before it morphed into this fiasco is beyond me. Now, clearly, this mess needs sorting out. The sooner the better. Otherwise, this will just bleed on through the media as anonymous sources brief out their bile and egos become more entrenched. Not to mention the further punishment that will come their way in the polls as voters rightly punish them for scrapping amongst themselves when they should be focused on the state of our country in these worrying times. It's now pretty simple. The sacked frontbenchers must be reinstated, and if that doesn't happen, then the leaders need to go. Because a leader who cannot hold the team together is not worthy of the name.